Hello folks, I'm Ben Tannehill. As you know, I'm a huge fan of The Simpsons. It's one of my favorite shows of all time, and it's a highly respected show. However, once the 2000s came along, the show became less and less popular, so now if you tell anyone that you still watch it, they look at you as if you're crazy. Well, I believe it's my duty to stand up for this show and explain why I still watch it. I like to start out by saying that I'm not a blind Simpsons fanboy. I'm willing to admit when I think the show screws up. For example, some of my least favorite episodes are Smart and Smarter, The Principal and the Pauper, and The Boys of Bummer. However, is there really anything new for shows to have episodes that aren't on par with others? That's something that's been going on since the beginning of television, so I don't see that as something to hold against The Simpsons. I think that for every bad episode this show has, it has 10 amazing ones and 5 decent ones. Some of my favorite episodes from this current season include Labor Pains, The Kid Is Alright, The War of Art, You Don't Have to Live Like a Referee, The Man Who Grew Too Much, and still this episode is one of the funniest things I've seen on TV in a long time. I think to say that every single episode of The Simpsons is bad now is a huge overstatement. But if you feel that way, then I think that this show isn't the only thing that's bothering you in life. I've read that some folks feel that The Simpsons isn't as good as it used to be because of all the changes. To which I say, you're just now noticing them? The Simpsons has always been changing its formula and characters up for its entire length. That's one of the reasons why I love it so much. It's able to keep reinventing itself while still staying true to what makes it so great. Think about it, folks. The show started out not exactly knowing what it was going for. It was just an animated sitcom with some sinful characters. However, later seasons began to show the show's luster. Season 3 is believed by fans to be when the show hit its stride, as it became a well-written sitcom. However, later seasons was when this show really showed what it was trying to do. I like to think of Season 4 of being an animated sitcom that took advantage of being a cartoon. I think Seasons 5 and 6 started to have social commentary that took a comedic look at the cynical elements of life. And finally, Season 7, my favorite season, the show hit its apex and combined all the elements from the previous seasons. The show tried out new things with each new season, making it each new year of the show feel like a new start of a great television. The changes to the show also affected the characters. The Homer from Season 1 isn't the same Homer from Season 3. Also, the Bart from Season 2 isn't the same Bart from Season 7. With all the writers and crew members that work on the show, different interpretations are always being brought to the table. Aside from Homer, Lisa Simpson is my favorite character in the show, and outside of Smart and Smarter, I not once saw an episode that led to me saying, Lisa would never do that. She's gone through some evolution since I started watching the show, but she never lost what I love about her, and that's being the voice of reason in a crazy world. The Simpsons has been airing for almost 25 seasons, so it makes sense that certain things need to be retooled in order to keep the show fresh. However, the crew members are careful to remember what makes the show so entertaining in the first place, and not to mess with that. However, most people aren't as optimistic as me. The majority feel that the show is no longer relevant and has no point to exist anymore. It's basically done all it can, and it should have ended 12 years ago. The question is, why do people feel that way when I myself see nothing wrong with the show now? I believe that it's not the quality of the show that has made it relevant in today's society, it's society itself. Picture back to the 80s when TV shows were safe and society was sugar-coated to make people think that everything is all sunshine and rainbows. However, in the late 80s, The Simpsons comes around to wake people up to reality. It reminded people of all the inconsistencies, paradoxes, and hypocrisies of modern life. The show ticked off people who were used to shows that played off life as happy and joyous, but a lot of people saw it as great satire of reality and allowed them to laugh about the little things that annoyed them. After The Simpsons, society started to become edgier with shows that had attitude and based themselves around taking a stab at the moments in life that get the best of us. The Simpsons led way for other animated sitcoms centered for adult audiences, like South Park, King of the Hill, and Seth MacFarlane's constantly growing library. It seems that people have forgotten about The Simpsons because other shows that had the same general purpose of satirizing life took attention away from it. Now, people just think that The Simpsons has no point to exist. Of course, I hear so many people say, it's just not good anymore. It's rare when I find any concrete reason for them to say that. They're just basic opinions like, it's not funny anymore, or why doesn't it just die already? When I do find somebody who tries to explain in detail why the show isn't good anymore, they mostly say that it's because of one or two recent episodes, with Lisa Goes Gaga and the Fabulous Baker Boy being brought up constantly. Okay, so the show churns out one or two duds once in a while, and it's become overshadowed by other shows that are similar to it. But, I must ask, is that any reason to stop watching it? Can't someone just enjoy it just as a TV show that still entertains them? Even though the general public has turned its back on this show, I'm going to stick with it until the very end. Why? Well, I got into the show around 2002, and not once did I stop watching it. The first thing I did every day after I came home from school was I would sit down on the couch and put on this show. When I would have hard days, it was exactly what I needed to cheer me up and give me hope. I would never miss a new episode on Sundays, and each season premiere in the fall is a very special occasion for me. Not once did I ever say, I just don't feel like watching a new episode. I'm always there, eagerly awaiting a half-hour worth of laughs. However, if I run into a dead episode, that's not a big deal. Even my least favorite episodes of the show still have a handful of moments that make me laugh. If one of my favorite shows is keeping me entertained, I see no reason to stop watching it. Even though I believe that Al Jean has overstayed his welcome as a showrunner, and the show is getting a little bit modernized, I'm not going to use those little things as reasons to stop watching a show that's still making me laugh. Sure, the general crowd says otherwise, but when have I ever been a sheep for the herding? I understand that some people can get tired of a show after watching it for so many years, but for someone who loves the show a lot, I never get tired of it. Watching a new Simpsons episode on Sunday has become a celebrated tradition of mine. It's the perfect moment of joy that I need in order to be prepared for the coming week. So, to those of you who hate the modern day Simpsons episodes, it's okay for you to do that. However, if you're going to use your opinions as a way to belittle people who still watch it, then you have a problem with arrogance. Also, if you keep whining and complaining that the show is still on the air, then realize that it's not really bothering you in any way, unless you watch it, which I question if you say you hate that show. I also like to say that you're one to talk if you're a fan of a certain other animated sitcom that many feel has lost its luster and needs to end forever. But I digress. The Simpsons is, and always will be, one of my favorite shows. I don't see any reasons to think otherwise. The crew is going to have to try very hard in order to get me to stop watching. After all, despite what anybody else has to say about this show, I have to admit that I would still rather watch it over a handful of other shows on TV these days. With society constantly changing all around us, The Simpsons is there to keep poking fun at all the aspects of life in a playful and balanced manner. It's still proving to me that laughter is the universal language, and it can still be used in a way that it doesn't offend anybody because at the end of the day, everybody and everything has flaws that are worth making fun of. As long as this show is still entertaining me and giving me what I expect from it, then I believe that there's no reason for me to stop watching it. Sure, the original seasons of The Simpsons are hard to beat. But does that mean that the new episodes are some of the worst entertainment on TV? I don't think so. I'd still rather watch this show than the cast of Here Comes Honey Boo Boo taking a mayonnaise bath. It's one of the few shows that's just as heartwarming as it is funny, and that is a great break from all the cynical attitudes of modern life. I think the reason I'm still watching this show is thanks to all the talent of the cast and crew, and it's really amazing how they're able to still give 100% effort after all these years. The recent death of Marcia Wallace was depressing because it's hard knowing I won't see Mrs. Krabappel in any new episodes at this point. But the show must go on, and I hope Marcia is resting in peace, as she was just as vital to the show as any of the other cast members. Bottom line, no matter what anybody says, I'm going to stick with The Simpsons through thick and thin. This show was always there for me when I needed it, so I'm going to be there when it needs me. Sure, I know it has to end eventually, but when it does, I'll remember it for all the laughs and feelings it gave me throughout my life, not for the few moments that made me feel dull-minded. If I'm a fanboy for defending a show that lots of people don't like anymore, all I have to say is, eat my shorts.
episode ever. Rest assured that I was on the internet within minutes, registering my disgust throughout the world.
Hey, I know it wasn't great, but what right do you have to complain?
As a loyal viewer, I feel they owe me.
What? They've given you thousands of hours of entertainment for free. What could they possibly owe you? I mean, if anything, you owe them.
Worst episode ever.